Welcome to This Explainer. If you've ever tried to write a personal essay or a memoir, you already know the absolute monster of a challenge staring you down. How on earth do you make your own lived experiences resonate with someone who has never, ever met you? It's kind of like trying to get a complete stranger to care about your family vacation photos. We're here to figure out exactly how to pull that off, turning your sprawling personal history into captivating, creative nonfiction.
So let's just face this massive hurdle head-on. Why would a busy stranger dedicate their precious free time to reading about your life? Honestly, readers are incredibly busy, right? They're juggling video games, podcasts, chores, taking care of their families, you name it. You can't just expect them to inherently care about your childhood or your personal trials. You have to strategically earn their attention, literally right from page 1.
To do that, we're building a toolkit. Here's exactly what we'll be covering to condense your life into a meaningful narrative. First, engaging strangers with your story. Then, framing through meaningful focus. Next, relevant specificity and juxtaposition. After that, meaning over raw emotion, followed by finding voice and perspective, and finally, the so what factor.
All right, jumping right into Section 1, engaging strangers with your story. We have to figure out how to write professionally for an audience that doesn't know a single thing about you, not your name, not your age, not your hometown.
To avoid completely bogging down your narrative with massive biographical data dumps, you've got to hit 3 major goals right out of the gate. You have to keep it focused, keep it interesting, and make it something that matters. Seriously, if you try to give a complete A to Z historical timeline of your entire life, the reader is just going to walk away. You absolutely must be strategic here.
Which brings us seamlessly to Section 2, framing through meaningful focus. This is where we learn how to give the distinct impression of a whole life without exhaustively detailing every single second of it. Professional writers actually use very specific lenses to condense personal history. They hone in on details that universally connect with an audience. Our main strategies for framing are focusing on an event, focusing on an object or a physical trait, focusing on food, or focusing on a specific place. By building your narrative entirely around one of these frames, you can render all the relevant circumstances of your life in just a handful of pages. It's a real game changer.
Let's look at an example. Focusing on a deeply significant object, like the lost charm bracelet in Yoshiko Ichida's story, anchors a massive historical event into a super relatable, emotional frame. Instead of trying to describe the sprawling, horrific scope of a World War II Japanese-American internment camp, zeroing in on the loss of this one tiny item perfectly embodies a much larger loss of normalcy and freedom.
And consider how contrasting a physical trait does the exact same thing. Take piano hands representing middle-class privilege versus calloused hands representing post-war labor and steel mill work. An author can contrast their own slender hands soft from middle-class piano lessons with their mother's short, rough hands shaped by the steel mill. Just by describing hands, you literally reveal entire generations of class history. It's incredibly powerful. You can even use food, like a plate of live lobster sashimi, to highlight cultural dissonance and alienation during a Tokyo business dinner. Imagine the sheer trauma of being laughed at by your bosses while a half-shelled, literal live lobster crawls off your plate. See, food isn't just a universal symbol for comfort. It can be a brilliant lens to capture moments of profound discomfort and culture shock in a completely foreign environment.
Moving right along to Section 3, relevant specificity and juxtaposition. Let's look at how refining your details and pairings really brings this focused framework to life.
Okay, beware of image overload here. Relevant specificity means choosing one or maybe 2 powerful adjectives to elicit the exact mood you want. Look at the difference between just saying ratty versus old, gray, ratty, tattered, and moth-smelling. If you use all 5, it's just way too much information for the reader's brain to conjure up at once. Just pick the one word, like ratty, that nails the emotional core of the image.
And keep Ernest Hemingway's classic tough love advice in mind. Be suspicious of any adverb. He might have been famously blunt, but the guy was totally right. When you pick a truly great, specific verb, you absolutely do not need adverbs to prop it up. Good writing is all about making sharp, decisive choices with your language.
Now, beyond adjectives and verbs, we have juxtaposition, which is basically just a fancy word for grouping or pairing unexpected images to create strong contrast and emotional depth. It's not just comparing things, it's slamming things together that we wouldn't normally associate with one another, specifically to force a powerful reaction from the reader. To picture this, think of the classic movie Frankenstein.
Putting a fragile, tiny, pretty little girl holding a flower right next to a huge, brutal monster with screws in his neck maximizes the emotional impact of both characters. We feel the monster's terrifying size purely because he's next to the fragile girl, and we feel her fragility because she's next to the monster. That's juxtaposition at work.
All right, shifting gears to section 4, meaning over raw emotion. This is absolutely crucial because avoiding raw emotion is actually the biggest trap in personal writing.
You want to avoid what we call the bow tie wrappings. These are your standard graduations, typical weddings, or the expected sadness of a pet dying. Unless you had a completely shattering, totally unique realization during one of these events, avoid writing about them. Because the reader doesn't know your grandmother or your dog. Relying purely on the expected sadness of the event almost always turns your writing super saccharine or maudlin.
Just look at the difference in impact here. On the left, pure emotion. I was happy and proud that I graduated. Meh, it gives the reader nothing to really connect with. But on the right, shifting to meaning. Realizing your dad wasn't coming and your graduation actually commemorated his failures? Wow, that is a profound angle. It instantly evokes a shared, complex emotional response from a total stranger. Let's move right into section 5, finding voice and perspective. We need to make sure your unique identity shines through the narrative structure without alienating your audience.
So what is voice? It's a combination of insights, writing style, and mood that makes the reader feel like a unique person is talking directly to them. Your voice could be deeply contemplative, or it could be wonderfully snarky, like one author who described a smug smile as a constant middle finger. But it has to reflect your true self. It's not just throwing in slang, it's layering your specific judgments and sentence structure so the reader feels an unmistakable, living, breathing human on the page.
And here's a huge point. You have to know the difference between point of view, who is speaking in the narrative, and perception, who is affected by the event happening. If you try to write from your mother's point of view using the pronoun I, well, you're writing fiction now, not a true story. You can't read minds. You can absolutely explore how other people perceived an event, but the point of view must always remain yours.
Finally, we arrive at section 6, the so what factor. This is the ultimate test for any piece of creative nonfiction, and frankly, the sole reason your story matters to anyone else.
You absolutely must steer clear of prepackaged social cliches. Things like everything happens for a reason, or it was for the best. Those just do not fulfill the so what factor. You have to dig deeper. You need to push past the obvious and provide a valuable, specific insight or an unexpected angle that literally makes the reader look at the world differently.
So I'm going to leave you with this to ponder before you face that terrifying blank page. What is the so what of your story? What is the true meaning hidden beneath your memories that will compel a total stranger to care? Did you just survive an event, or did you extract a universal truth from it that someone else absolutely needs to know? Find that truth, apply these framing tools, and you are going to have a story the world actually wants to read. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this transforms the way you look at your own life story.